Hi team, I found this amazing location. You guys know that I'm into spooky stuff and all things Halloween, and I found this amazing place. It's got this sign that says it's like haunted or whatever, but do you believe in hauntings? Because I certainly don't. So come on team, let's go into the woods and explore. What's that sound? Oh, hello. Ooh, that's sunlight. Ooh. Why, hello, my darlings. While being alive was fun, being dead, that's a ghoulish delight. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot why you're here. You're here for a DIY, as I will show you how I made this sign for my inn. And don't worry, we do have some vacancies still available. The materials we use for this project are actually dead inventory and not fresh lumber. I got this material from my friend who is actually going to throw it away. It's leftover material from when she was making a bunny cage, or is it for her magical assistant? I don't really know. And then for the legs, I'm gonna cut 4 pieces out of 2x4s that are roughly the length of Frankenstein's foot, or about 18 inches. And then I'm gonna go over to my chop saw and just cut these into equal pieces. And then we're gonna take the post piece, which was roughly the length of our longest 2x4, or the length of your favorite friendly neighborhood witch, who happens to just be me, or about 5 feet tall. And we're going to screw each of the legs directly onto the post, making an X or a plus sign shape. And we're gonna first drill pilot holes before drilling the actual screws in the 2x4. But oh my goodness, do not let your dad give you whatever random material he happens to have, because these were the worst screws I have ever used. They were so difficult to use. I don't know if it was the 2x4s being old or if it were the screws. I don't really know what was happening here, but you definitely want to use outdoor or decking screws and not whatever the heck these fancy things are, because we had the biggest struggle that you can imagine with these. They're also flathead screws and on 2x4s. It was awful. And then to top it off, we discovered that we put one of the legs on backwards. So after struggling with these screws, we had to then undo everything and try again. Just make sure when you're securing your legs that they are going the correct direction, unlike what we're doing here. And I'm sure there's probably an easier way to do this than what we found, but we're just making this X shape by laying the boards on my driveway, and I'll show you the close-up. Look at how much trouble we had with these. It is just completely sheared through this wood and just looks like a hot mess, or looks like a werewolf has been clawing at your sign, just waiting to know when's the inn gonna be open. After the legs are done, I'm then going to install the cross arm, which is a 1x4, which again is a piece of scrap wood that I got from my friend. And the length of this arm is roughly the length of my favorite witch hat, which is about 29 inches. So then we're drilling pilot holes, and we've actually switched to a different screw, which I found out is not an outdoor screw as well, because despite screwing 4 of these in, when I left this sign outside to, of course, tell guests where to go, these actually sheared in half and broke the screws. I didn't know that was even possible, but these screws absolutely did not work. So maybe, you know, decking screws would be better. And then here's what it looks like all assembled. Look at her, and she cute. And then this is another scrap piece of wood that I actually got from the hardware store. Sometimes they just have free stuff laying around, so I just asked. And then I'm taking a piece of paper and I'm going to roughly draw out which part is going to be the vacancy sign portion of it and which sign is going to be the actual dead and breakfast sign. And then I'm going to fold my piece of paper in half and then half again, and I'm going to draw out that curve that I want at the top, and this way the curve will be the same on both the top and the bottom, and then both sides. So you're basically just mirroring it a bunch of times. And then I'm just going to open this up, and then with my black Sharpie I'm just going to draw around it, giving my board that nice beautiful sine curve. Next I'm going to grab my jigsaw, which I borrowed from Papa Boogeyman, aka my dad, and I'm just going to use that jigsaw to cut around this curve. And oh my gosh, this is probably the most satisfying part of this project, when the curve came together and it looked like a real sign, and I was so excited. I'm gonna repeat this curve on both the top and bottom of the sign. I'm gonna grab the bottom portion of the sign, and then I'm going to cut a straight line across this. This is gonna be the vacancy or no vacancy portion of the sign. Next, I'm lining up the vacancy part to the sign, and I'm going to drill 2 holes into both of them. That way the holes will match up when you attach your string or wire, whatever you choose to use. I'm using twine string here because twine is natural, and also because chain actually costs money that you have to buy in the store, and we didn't have any vintage broken chain at the time. We do now, so maybe I'll replace it. But I'm using twine here for this first iteration. So again, I'm just going to drill the hole straight through both pieces. I'm then going to hold my sign up to the cross arm and think about where I want to place it, and then we're going to drill some more pilot holes for where these would go as well. Now for the fun part, painting. This is actually the color that Frankenstein uses when he needs to buff his cheeks, but I'm just using some white paint. I actually got this on super clearance from, I think, Lowe's. It was like $2. I think this is the paint that gets returned when people decide they don't like the color. So either way, it's kind of like reduce, reuse, recycling. So I'm just going to paint a nice thick layer on both pieces. I'm using this stupid little foam brush because I already had this in inventory. I would recommend using a roller if you have one, but I didn't have one, so we're just gonna go with this. And then I'm just gonna dump the paint on because that's way easier, and just spread it out. I did have to use about 2 or 3 coats using this method. I don't know if my paint was too thin or if it's the fact that I'm using the wrong paintbrush, but either way, painting is really soothing for a restless, ghoulish soul, so I think it all works out in the end. And then I'm gonna come over to the leg and post part of the sign, and I'm just gonna do the same thing, where I'm gonna go around and just keep painting this white. I do think this also took about 3 or 4 coats to really get it nice and white. It probably doesn't even matter since this is gonna be left outside and you want it to weather, but I was like, I want it nice and white for the first part. So that's why I painted it so many times. After picking out a font that I liked, I then printed out a couple iterations to get the size correct. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm checking to make sure that I like the size of the font on the sign. And as you can see, this size is way too big. Breakfast doesn't fit at all. So then I went back and had to pick a smaller size font. Now, if you have a Cricut or a Silhouette, you can cut this out using those, which would be so much easier. But my stupid one decided to break randomly one day, so I do not have one. So that meant that I was cutting this out by hand, which is a pain in the booty, but it does save you money if yours broke and you don't want to replace it right now. So I'm just gonna go around with my X-Acto knife. I'm cutting on a cutting mat, and yes, this absolutely takes forever. After cutting out all of the letters, I'm then going to tape this down to the sign, and any places like the A, I'm going to put the little triangle back in and tape this down so that way it's easy to paint around. And then I'm just going to use some regular craft acrylic black paint. This is the stuff that you can get from Michael's, Walmart, whatever, for like 50 cents. And I'm just going to sponge paint the black on to the letters, giving it that nice vintage effect. And then I'm also going to take the side of the paintbrush and I'm just going to add a little bit of black to all of the corners and to anywhere you think wear and tear would be on this. That way it doesn't look quite so brand new and gives it that I've been sitting out in the woods for years effect. And then once it's dry, you're just gonna peel it off, revealing your new beautiful sign.
I forgot to mention the best part about my dead end breakfast. While your breakfast might come slightly burnt, I will say that my sign has done great outside in the weather. It has been left out here for, you know, a while, shall we say. And look at this beauty. She has started to gather some beautiful textures on her that might be associated with mold, but in our case, it just adds to her glory and her gorgeousness. So if you would like to drop on by to my dead end breakfast, Leave a comment below. Are you more of a vampire, a mummy, Mr. Frankenstein himself or herself? I'm not picky. Which ghoul are you? And if you have two ghoulish thumbs, please give this video a thumbs up. I don't know why, but it does something and it makes it so more people will hear about my dead and breakfast. And if you are not subscribed, I don't know why you're not subscribed. Hit the subscribe button down below because we wouldn't want anything to happen to you, darlings. Goodbye.